The Los Angeles Lakers this offseason have signed more players than any other team in the league, while making the biggest trade of this offseason trading for Russell Westbrook. They have signed many players who deserve way more than minimum contracts to minimum contracts, making the perfect use of the championship window and the big market retirement home. But I feel we're overrating the signings of the Lakers and at the same time overhating the Russell Westbrook trade, and the Lakers are an enigma. And here's why.
They be like, what? Can you teach me how to dirty? You know why? Cause all the bitches love it. All I need is a beat that's super bumpin'. And for you to back it up and dump it.
Leave a like on this video and subscribe if you haven't already. I drop regular NBA content and I have a series going on called The Greatest Playoff Runs Ever. I dropped the first video for it recently about Giannis Antetokounmpo's 2021 run, and I'd really appreciate it if you checked it out. Also check out my reaction to the free agency so far and my thoughts about the Bulls free agency in the previous videos. Now with these out of the way, let's get into it. Let's talk about the moves the Lakers have made this offseason so far. Dwight Howard, Trevor Ariza, Wayne Ellington, Carmelo Anthony, Ken Bazemore, Kendrick Nunn, Malik Monk, and they re-signed Taylor Horton Tucker. Let's see what they're expecting from all these players and if they really can provide what they're expected from. Dwight Howard is expected to be the center that can be put alongside AD in the regular season and protect AD's health like he did in the 2020 run of the Lakers. At the end of the day, Anthony Davis will be a center in the crucial situations, but they need to protect AD's injury-prone body for the playoffs, and Dwight is expected to be that while providing solid defense. But what we forget is the last time we saw Dwight Howard, he looked washed. The 2019-20 season was his bounce-back career season, and when he got the contract in Philly to back up Joel Embiid, he did an alright job at it during the regular season. He didn't have a great playoffs whatsoever, and it was obvious to anyone who watched the Hawks series. Playing Dwight at the 5 will also mean the Lakers are going to give up on quite a lot of spacing because it will mean the starting lineup will comprise of Russell Westbrook, the worst volume 3-point shooter of all time statistically, Malik Monk, who has been inconsistent his entire career from a 3, LeBron James was alright from 3, and Anthony Davis was a below average 3-point shooter. I do think the Lakers are going to be great without 3-point shooting offensively, and I'll get to that when I talk about the Westbrook signing, but they can't completely give up on spacing. Even if they don't have 3-point snipers, they need threats, which the defenses of other teams will at the minimum respect and not leave completely open while they're shooting. With Dwight Howard in the lineup, this gives the Lakers a massive spacing problem, and using him as a backup would be pointless because I'd rather play Marc Gasol for the fit than Dwight. Now let's talk about Marc Gasol. Though Marc Gasol might be a better fit, he's also pretty much very old and quite washed too. Marc Gasol looked like a shell of himself in the Olympics, and his regression was quite obvious the last season with the Lakers too. He provides them some spacing and versatility, but he's not really the same defensively as he was, and if he can't really shoot, which in my opinion is a real question, it'll be a massive problem for the Lakers. But one thing I like about Marc Gasol's fit is his playmaking from the elbow. LeBron and Westbrook are two of the greatest slashers in NBA history, and Anthony Davis is the greatest lob threat in NBA history. If these players can at the least have 3-point shots which make the defenders respect them, which I feel they do have right now, their cuts and Marc Gasol's passes, which will be on point, will be beautiful to watch. I'm really not concerned as much as many other people about the Lakers offense because when you have two of the greatest playmakers and floor generals ever who are at the same time exceptional slashers and have another top 10 player to complement them, they're going to figure it out. They have some issues around these three players which might lead to their big three having issues, and that's what according to me makes this team an enigma. They have clear, blatantly obvious flaws on their team, but at the same time have LeBron James, Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis. And however obvious the flaws may be, having three of the best players of a generation and three of the best players in the league right now will cover it up to a certain degree. I'm not rooting against this team, but I just want to point out their flaws and what they might do to solve these flaws. And let's get back at it now. They signed wings Trevor Ariza and Ken Bazemore, who have not really been good defenders for a while now. The Lakers are banking on their name value and the fact that these players had good defensive seasons and they might have something left in their tank to provide to the Lakers while contending for a championship. Offensively, both these players were very low volume 3-point shooters and really not great threats. You can't leave them completely open, but I wouldn't really be concerned if one of these two players are taking a 3-point shot. But at the same time, they're probably the 10th and 11th man on this roster, and I'm pretty happy as the Lakers if they can hit like 1-3 a game and hopefully provide some sort of defense to the team. Then moving on to the two wings they signed who I'm 100% sure will provide no defense, Wayne Ellington and Carmelo Anthony. Both these signings were to solve the Lakers' spacing issues, and to be honest, these are probably my two favorite signings the Lakers have made. Wayne Ellington will have the openest looks possible, and him being a career 38% shooter and coming off a 42% shooting season on his big volume 6 threes per game is something the Lakers can really use. I really wouldn't be surprised if his percentages went closer to the 50% mark, but the Lakers also have this problem where all the shooters they sign absolutely suck after playing for the Lakers. So I really wouldn't be surprised if he comes down towards the 35% mark either. But I'm pretty confident that the latter is less likely. Melo provides the Lakers another off-the-dribble shot maker and a creator they can rely on, and he shot 40% on catch and shoot threes last year. That percentage will probably be better too, as being on the Lakers and getting open looks will help him better that percentage. Now, two signings which I really don't know how they're going to end up are Malik Monk and Kendrick Nunn. Both Nunn and Monk are very solid players, don't get me wrong. Kendrick Nunn has been averaging 15 points per game for 2 straight seasons. He's been more consistent in recent seasons and the end of the regular season, and I think he has the potential to be one of the best 6th men in the league. He won't be able to showcase his full capabilities as a 6th man due to how ball dominant the rest of the Lakers squad is, but he provides the Lakers a solid player who can create a shot off the dribble too. He's also a very good 3-point shooter off the catch, shooting 42% of his catch and shoot threes, and he should only get better as time progresses. Malik Monk too showed his real capabilities last year after having a down season in 2019-20. He went up to 40% from 3 and became a 42% catch and shoot player. He's a heat check guy, and the real problem with him is his consistency. He can have 36 points on one night at 60% field goal percentage and no one would be surprised. And the very next night he could have a 6-point stinker and no one would be surprised either. Even Kendrick Nunn to a certain extent struggles with this inconsistency. He was awful in the playoffs for 2 straight years while having great regular seasons both the times, and this should really count for something. Malik Monk too has had no playoff experience so far. But the reason I like these signings to a certain extent, the THT signing and the Russell Westbrook trade, are the regular season. The Lakers are banking on these players to be able to carry the load for the regular season. Talen Horton-Tucker is literally their only positive defender right now, not named LeBron James or Anthony Davis in my opinion, and they're hoping he can keep it up and improve on that. He showed them flashes the entire last season that he can be something. What this something is the real question. He has a ridiculous wingspan, great finishing ability, and he showed flashes that he can hit the 3 last year. They're hoping he can be a piece for the future, or at least a good enough player to be a trade asset for them during their deadline. They rejected an offer for Kyle Lowry to keep Talen Horton-Tucker. He's a part of their younger players who will have to carry the load during the regular season alongside Nunn and Monk. And finally, the Westbrook trade. I like this trade. Russell Westbrook provides them with an energy they didn't have last year. He's going to win them games by himself, and he's going to carry them the entire regular season, which is make it pretty much sure that they're not going to be in a playing tournament even if they face some injuries. He needs to stop making some dumb plays like the 3-pointers he takes and the blatantly obvious defensive mistakes he makes in the clutch. He's not a great defender, not at all. His ridiculous athleticism and speed are the only things which make him competitive on the defensive side of things, but I expect him to actually get better there. Frank Vogel is an amazing defensive coach. Dennis Schroeder never showed any defensive flashes in OKC and never showed that he would be a player picking up opposing point guards at full court until he came to LA. And I can confidently say Vogel was the reason for this. Though Westbrook is on the latter side of his career, he has the potential to be an amazing defender. I don't expect him to be an amazing defender this year, but I really wouldn't be surprised if he became an above average defender at the least. But I don't think I can say the same about their other signings. Kendrick Nunn, Carmelo Anthony, Wayne Ellington and Malik Monk are just bad defenders who are just not built to be defenders and are never going to be defenders however great Vogel may be. Ariza, Bazemore, Dwight and Gasol are way past their prime. The Lakers are banking heavily that they have something in the tank, and I really don't think these players have that in the tank. Not enough for both sides of the floor at least. The Lakers have gotten better offensively. Westbrook provides them one of the most overqualified secondary ball handlers in the history of the league and one of the greatest floor generals to lead their second unit. Though they won't be a good 3-point shooting team, the open looks he and LeBron are going to generate the Lakers, they have to hit some or the other number of threes. Even if they don't, I think they have a solid backup strategy where they just play one primary playmaker and 4 slashes. The talent offensively on this team is so great, I'm genuinely not worried about that side of the floor, however where the fit is. It's LeBron James, it's going to work. I did say before that Frank Vogel is a defensive genius, but there is no guarantee that they're going to be great on the defensive side of the floor. LeBron is not going to show them any defensive effort until the postseason. They have genuinely bad defenders on their team, and defense is their identity. They need players to at least be passable on defense, and they need Anthony Davis to have a Defensive Player of the Year campaign to maintain their identity as a defensive powerhouse. I know I'm saying things all over the place in this video, but as I said in the title of this video and in the start of this video, the Los Angeles Lakers are an enigma. And to go all over the place one last time, I'm not confident about this team in the playoffs. Sorry Westbrook stands, but Westbrook is just not a good playoff performer. Not in recent history at least. Defenses sag off Westbrook, and his inability to not take bad shots makes it that much easier for them. The Lakers are probably favorites in the West right now, but they have blatant weaknesses. Do I trust players of ages 37, 36, 35 to stay healthy for 4 straight rounds? Other than LeBron, no. This was the reason they brought in younger players to carry a lot of their loads when they need to, but I don't trust them enough in the playoffs to be hitting a shot for me in the fourth quarter of Game 7 in the playoff series either. In the end, what do I think of this Lakers team? I really don't know. I'm not going to be surprised if they're a dominant team, and at the same time, I won't be surprised if a team takes advantage of their flaws in the playoffs. They're relying on the brilliance of LeBron James, the energy of Russell Westbrook, the defensive capabilities of Anthony Davis and his ability to stay healthy, the youth of Nunn, Monk and Taylor Horton-Tucker. They're relying on Trevor Ariza, Carmelo Anthony, Ken Bazemore, Marc Gasol and Dwight Howard to have something in the tank, and they're relying on Vogel's defensive brilliance. Is this a lot to rely on? Sure. Am I confident these players are going to work out? To a certain extent. And I'm going to conclude by saying what I said in the start. You can say I've said nothing useful in the video, and I wouldn't disagree. The Los Angeles Lakers are and will be an enigma. And yeah, that's all I have for you today. Stay tuned for more interesting NBA content and check out the Giannis video if you haven't already. And of course, leave a like and subscribe if you're new.